How's it going, guys? It's Javi from Mother SpongeBob 1000. Today is March 17th, 2020. Very early, March 17th, 2020. It is currently around midnight. As we're going to take a look at several things that are currently happening in the United States and several things that are expected to happen later during the future. So, first, we're going to talk about what is currently happening, and we're seeing a lot of rain showers right around Pennsylvania, lingering over the Ohio River Valley and just north of Atlanta, as these are mostly moderate rain showers, and we're even seeing a little bit of a mixture towards northern Pennsylvania. However, these are very light. They won't really have much impacts. However, if you're planning to do something outside, you might want to reconsider that for Tuesday, as these rain bands are expected to move over the northeast and bring a little bit of more cloudy and damp conditions right around the eastern seaboard. As I'll show you during the future radar, there's currently right now, if we move forward 4 a.m., those rain showers start to move in to New Jersey and the New York City metro area, and we're starting to see that rain change over the snow in the northern portions of New York, where the temperatures are a little cooler and are hovering around freezing. However, accumulation should mostly be light, and pretty much dusting is expected around the upstate New York region, so it won't be anything major, but definitely keep that in mind, especially if you're in the higher elevations where the temperature is cooler, where the snow could make the roads a little bit more slick. And those rain showers move out by around noontime around New Jersey, but still lingering over the New England area. So definitely keep that in mind. And then it completely moves out by the afternoon time. So if you're planning to do something outside and it might be a little bit too rainy to do it, so you might want to reconsider it. But other than that, it won't be anything major. Just worry about the snow in the higher elevations where conditions could be a little slick by a little dusting, but it's gonna be mainly minor for the most part, since there just isn't really much instability for this storm system to work with. As if we're going to take a look at the temperatures, the the temperatures right now are mostly stable. We're seeing that smooth transition from the 30s to 40s. There really isn't a sharp contrast between temperature, and it's the reason why a lot of these rain showers and snow showers pretty light within this region, since there isn't really that instability to make this trough really any stronger to produce heavier rain or heavier snow bands to become a major concern. So that's definitely good news for the Northeast. But if we move towards the Midwest, it's mostly dry right now and also pretty stable, as there's a smooth transition between 30s to the 40s. However, you could see a slight, I would say a slight cold front that's coming through, where we see the temperatures drop sharply between North Dakota and South Dakota, but it isn't producing any precipitation, and the temperatures are just too cold to hold a lot of water in the atmosphere. So we're mostly seeing dry conditions here, as a huge ridge is dominating this region, as the GFS is stating, where we're seeing a huge ridge just dominate the Midwest. So conditions should be good for you guys for probably the next 2 days. However, that will quickly change, as I'll go over in a little bit. But let's move on to California, where we're seeing quite heavy snow. So for those skiers out there, this might be a good weekend for you guys to go out skiing if you really want to, and because it is gonna be like probably in uh a once in a winter opportunity for a lot of these skiers, since we're seeing quite heavy snow in the higher elevations near Carson City, right around Lake Tahoe, experiencing heavy snow. As around Lake Tahoe, we saw over the past 48 hours 41 inches of snow. So to put that in perspective, that's nearly 1 inch per hour for nearly 48 hours. That's insane, and it's expected to not slow down anytime soon within the next 24 hours. If we look at the the 5 day forecasts in terms of snowfall, we're seeing up to over 18 inches of snow in the higher elevations just south of Lake Tahoe. Lake Tahoe is around 10 to 12 inches of snow expected over the next 24 hours. So you guys could experience quite a bit more snow on top of the tons of snow you already dealt with. So I would advise around the Interstate 80 corridor, be very careful when crossing over to California if you're in Nevada, or if you're going to Nevada from California. I want you guys to keep in mind that Interstate 80, it might be some trouble because Interstate 80 goes over the higher elevations and will experience some of that heavy snowfall. So keep that in mind if you're trying to cross borders between these states. So, but as for the skiers, this will be a good weekend for you guys. Tons of snow. So definitely take advantage of it if you're into that type of stuff. But yeah, but it should end within 24 hours as the low pressure continues to move inland, and that moisture as well moves more inland towards Nevada where the elevation is lower, so the snow will stop. However, that snow will move a little bit more towards Northern California, so keep that in mind as well. And it should linger in Northern California over the next 24 to potentially 36 hours. So in Northern California, especially in the higher elevations, get ready for heavy snow. But moving on, that low pressure continues to move towards the east, and it kind of leads to my next topic in this video, which is a severe weather threat that's expected over Texas as a result of these low pressure systems coming off the coast of California. As that low pressure system, the same one that was dumping heavy snow over the higher elevations of California, is expected to move towards Texas, and with that, it's going to bring a lot of dry air from these deserts. And since the low pressure is coming from the lee side of the island of the mountains of the Cascades, it's gonna bring a lot of dry air towards Texas, which usually that dry air is colder, it's denser, and that'll mix in with the warmer, more moist air, which is centered around Texas. As a result of the Gulf Stream and this ridge, that's pretty much gonna dominate the United States and the Atlantic as we go over the next several days, and it's going to bring a lot of that wind over land, and with that wind comes a lot of moisture and a lot of very, very unstable air. So that's definitely going to create conditions for thunderstorms around Texas area. As that low pressure moves, we see that instability start to rise, as the GFS model is clearly saying. If we look at the European, it's also stating very similar. As I'll show you, you see a slight instability where these thunderstorms could develop from. If we look at the 500 millibar height anomaly, where it gives a good idea of how high the temperatures are, we see that slight dip in the jet stream, which may create a slight chance of severe thunderstorms over this area. I don't expect any major severe weather threat. Tornadoes seem slight at this point, since it isn't really unstable enough to where I expect it to really be, the impacts to be huge from this severe weather threat. But if you're around the San Angelo area, it's definitely something to keep in mind, because you don't want any of your property to get damaged by hail or severe damaging winds. So it's definitely something to keep in mind, even though it won't be anything. It's not expected to be a major severe weather threat with tons of tornadoes like we usually see during the spring, as we're approaching that season slowly but surely, and we're gonna see those thunderstorms impact Texas right around the afternoon, where the air becomes more unstable as a result of the sun beating down on the ground, which will give a lot of these air molecules energy. They'll start to move around, and as a result of this cold air from this low pressure that's going to move closer to the Colorado area, it will create unstable conditions over the Texas area, and those thunderstorms should should extend, and then around 2 a.m. on Wednesday, we see a pretty defined squall line that's extending from just east of the Oklahoma City area all the way down south to the Mexico and Texas border. So along this area, keep in mind for thunderstorms, whether they're severe or not, especially at late night, where they should move through, and then they'll die down as the morning time comes around, as it loses that instability, but it should regain it as another low pressure system that's bringing a lot of rain and cold air around Arizona should come in. And since this low pressure system is a little bit further south and it's bringing a lot more cool air further south, I think the Wednesday to Thursday time frame, the severe thunderstorms should be more defined and severe, especially in Oklahoma and portions of northern Texas as well. So keep that in mind. If we look at the current severe storm predictions, this is for the 17th through the 18th. We have a slight chance of severe thunderstorms within this area. So while it's slight, do keep that in mind that we could see that severe weather threat in this area, and even heavy downpour could completely change your plans. So definitely watch out for those thunderstorms, and even into Thursday, those thunderstorms will continue. But now, the next topic of this video is the potential snow for the Midwest. So as a result of these thunderstorms, those thunderstorms will enhance the possibility of a heavy snowstorm threat across the Midwest, as I'll show you in the Futurecast radar, where we see those thunderstorms start to build, and there's going to be a low pressure system just behind it that will fuel off of this instability and use that to potentially create a pretty hefty snowstorm across the Midwest. However, there's still going to be a little bit uncertainty with this, because both of the computer models are unsure exactly how strong this will be, because the European is taking a much weaker storm that's gonna go across the United States, which will mean that there's likely going to be less snow, there's likely going to be less instability, and less rain in general, less precipitation with less instability. But let me show you guys what the GFS is stating first, so you guys get the better picture of what exactly the radar is saying of the GFS. And the GFS, if we move forward, is into okay, I'm a little bit too forward, and then that low pressure starts to develop as a result of this cold air just behind it, encountering a lot of that Gulf Stream moisture and warmer air from the Gulf. As a result of this ridge that's bringing a lot of that warm air into that low pressure system, mixing in with the cold air. But if we move forward, that storm continues to strengthen down to 996, which isn't considered intense, but it's still considered big enough to where it could dump a very large swath of heavy snow across the Midwest. This extends from the Canada and Minnesota border all the way down to Colorado and the higher elevations around near Denver, where they could experience a heaviest amount of snow, because that snow will linger over the higher elevations of Colorado for a long time, and so will that low pressure system. But it should increase its speed as this ridge starts to build a little bit more, and this high pressure from north of it continues to increase the westerly winds, and that should make it speed up a little bit more. But over Colorado, you should experience a hefty amount of snow. However, if we look at the European in comparison, it's a little bit weaker, where we see 998 millibars, and then if we move forward, it's only at around 1,000 millibars, where compared to GFS at that point, it's a little bit more up north and it's quite a bit stronger at 991 millibars. And the location also matters because it also determines the rain snow line. If it's a little bit more south, like the European model is stating, there might be there might be a chance that that snow will be a little bit further south to where maybe Milwaukee gets involved and the upper portions of Michigan, but it will be lighter in general because the storm is weaker as and the temperatures should be a little bit lower than expected in the Northeast because the GFS is expecting like upper 70-degree weather around New York City, which is well above average for March, almost record breaking. But the GFS is a little bit further north where it expects more instability, more warm air to go further up north, meeting up with the cool air, while the European is taking a little bit of a weaker storm and more southward with less instability and more stable air in general across the Northeast. So it's going to be key to exactly where this storm will go, how strong it will be, to determine the current snowfall forecast for a lot of the Midwest and even the temperatures across the eastern seaboard because they're going to be very high. But I could say with confidence there's going to be very high temperatures within the eastern seaboard of the um of the United States because the low pressure is going to be pretty far north, whether it's the European model and or the GFS model, to the point where a lot of that high pressure and the low pressure will bring a lot of that south wind up north, and that will warm up the temperatures across the United States. What gets more uncertain is where that rain snow line is going to land and how much snow is expected because we still need to see how strong the storm will be. However, most of the computer models are hovering around 1,005 millibars to around 990 millibars, so we do get at least a little bit of a picture of what's expected over the Midwest, as I'll show you the snowfall forecast where we see a range of around 6 to 10 inches between Minneapolis and going further south to the South Dakota and North Dakota, and in the higher elevations, like I said before, that snow will linger over Colorado, and that'll bring a hefty amount of snow over the next 5 days in Colorado, potentially up to 2 feet in the higher elevations. So again, skiers, if you're into that, um, get ready for heavy snow and stuff, and yeah, just get ready for a pretty good weekend of skiing in Colorado. However, for the other regions, I will say with confidence that there is going to be a snowstorm expected within the Midwest. However, how much snow is still going to be questionable within the next several days because the GFS and the European are still a little bit in disagreement. So we have to see what occurs there, and what will be key of determining that forecast is how far north this high pressure goes, because if it goes a little bit more north, more of the warm air will circulate this low pressure system and force it up north to where there's going to be more instability, a stronger storm, and as a result more snow, but the snow is going to be a little bit more located a little bit more north, and while if the high pressure is a little bit further south, that means less instability and a little bit less snow, but the snow will be a little bit further south. So we definitely over the next several days have to keep in watch of this high pressure system and where it lands over the eastern Atlantic. But yeah, get ready for the Midwest. I would advise that as if there's a snowstorm coming. And just remember that winter isn't over yet for the Midwest. So, but anyways, guys, I guess I'll end it here. I thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys have a good night, or good morning, or good day. I'm gonna upload this in the morning of the 17th. So I hope you guys enjoy and have a great day.